All right, everybody, and yowzers, things are pretty out of sync today. It's because I'm recording my voice separately from the rest of the video. I'm trying to keep up with myself. We've got a coronal mass ejection watch in effect and a solar flare warning continuing until about another 18 hours. We got to wait for these sunspots to set, as they could produce major solar flares even while setting over the limb. The sun's been going a bit dark as well, as we see the 10.7 centimeter radial flux down to 78. The 10.7 centimeter radial flux down to 78. So there is also some filamentary behavior going on, and yeah. So anyway, setting sunspots. Let's take a look at Lagrange point 5, the location of stereo A, the gravitational equilibrium point where we can park a spacecraft at very low fuel cost. At Lagrange point 5, we see stereo A showing some signs of plasma in the corona. And we've been seeing some far side coronal mass ejections and some likely soon to be release of Earth side coronal mass ejections. That's where the Earth's located, where that purple arrow is, folks. From Lagrange point 5, Earth would be off to your right. So yeah, there's the view from stereo A. And we are awaiting additional coronal mass ejections here on both the non-sun and the non-Earth and the Earth side. Here's 304 angstroms, and you can see some of the filaments around that area there, stretching over on the Earth side. So similar to what we saw a few days ago when we saw the spectacular northwesterly filament release. Another large filament rotating in here. Here's 193 angstroms. Coronal holes are quite diffuse here, but there are some visible there showing up as dark spots. Areas where there's not a lot of that particular ion of iron, which is 193 angstroms ultraviolet light. Here's 171 angstroms. My personal favorite wavelength. Again, some sunspot setting. We'll show you some close-ups of those toward the end of the video. And let's blast through lots of data, as there's lots of stuff to talk about besides visuals. So the 10.7 centimeter radial flux now down to 78 solar flux units, having dropped way down here, back to just minimal levels of solar activity. You can see sunspots went all the way up to about 124 here. So we saw a sort of like an early solar maximum happening there. So it'll be interesting to see what goes on next. And what we're going to see is lots of coronal holes coming. And we do see some geomagnetic unrest forecast here on the Space Weather Enthusiast dashboard. A KP4 expected here, and it's because NOAA's not seeing the far side coronal mass ejections, the ones that are on the opposite side of the sun. For some reason, NOAA not noticing those and modeling those as Earth directed. So here you can see their model, and one of those coronal mass ejections was off in this direction, completely away from the Earth, from that plane. And so they've mismodeled it. I don't know what else to say. I mean, I don't want to harp on it, but that's what's going on. Let's take a look at seismicity here. Here's the 90-day chart of earthquakes, a bar graph over the past 90 days. And what's interesting here is that we've got some crossover between earthquakes and volcanoes. The possibility of a tsunami here does certainly exist if this thing erupts in a spectacular fashion. The La Palma volcano having seen 250 earthquakes in only the past day. So in the past 24 hours, we also see uplift happening there. As much as about an inch of uplift could cause some issues in the Atlantic Ocean. And a massive landslide-based tsunami is always an issue. Just to be aware of the possibility that it can, does, and has, and will happen again in the future at some point. It can happen. It has happened. It will happen again at some point. Will it be soon? I don't know. It depends on if it erupts in a spectacular fashion. And yeah, there's been recently I think it was a 3.9 downgraded to a 3.2 event there. And also all has to do with ground deformation from magma rising up to the surface around the La Palma volcano, the southern flank of it there in the Canary Islands. Highly seismically active here. So no major quakes, so they don't show up on our regular quake list that we typically show, which only shows, I think, 4+ magnitude quakes besides American quakes. Anyway, there's the information on La Palma. Looking at the rest of quakes, we see quite a few 5 magnitude quakes here over the past 24 hours. And pardon my delay, we are a little bit behind in putting out the video today because I had to re-record the audio. If it seems like I'm disjointed from what I'm showing on the screen, I apologize. So Indonesia saw a 5.3. Also, some quakes coming in the South Sandwich Islands region while we recorded the video. Shockingly, this actually sounds better than the original recording because I fumbled even more. I'm just kidding. Anyway, there's a quake in the South Sandwich Islands. That's a 5.3. Here's a 5.2 around that same region, and a 4.9. So that little uptick there once again. Also, Chile saw a 5.0. Ascension Island saw a 5.2. That was out in the ocean, by the way, right on the equator. And the South Sandwich Islands having a 5.2 coming in while we did the show, actually. The original recording. Yes, there may be more on your list by the time you view this video. Anyway, always pay attention to the time and date stamps on our content. So again, La Palma could be going into an eruptive state here. There's certainly magma motion and magmatic earthquakes happening on the southern flank of La Palma. Subinosejima, unknown ash cloud from it over the Ryukyu Islands, which are near Japan, by the way. Semeru on East Java exploding, 14,000-foot ash plume from Semeru. The Indonesian Isle of East Java, Dakono exploding, flight level 060. It's a 6,000-foot plume of volcanic ash. White Island now back on the list, showing some minor steam and ash emissions. So no major eruptions there from White Island, but it now showing back up on the list as it's active. Popocatépetl exploding, 20,000-foot ash plume over central Mexico, northeast of Mexico City. Some blocks ejected. Yet another reason to not hang around explosive volcanoes. It's pretty sketchy. Fuego's dispersed its ash over Guatemala, fertilizing the soil. Revenador exploding over Ecuador, 15,000-foot ash plume there. And intermittent emissions from Sabancaya are a reminder to not pole vault the caldera, but do join the SMASH team at smashamasho.com/SMASH team. It's spectacular. And it's vastly superior to Patreon. Not that we don't like Patreon. We love Patreon. Patreon helped us get to where we are. And so now we've created our own website, and we're leaving Patreon October 1st. Smashamasho.com/SMASH team is the alternative. And yeah, there's a free level at bronze. There's a $2.99 a month level at silver and a $9.99 a month level at gold. Let's get back to space. GOES magnetometer smooth here over the past day. Earth is in a solid South Pole current sheet, which we'll show you next. So the sun, as it puts out plasma, it creates a thing called the heliospheric current sheet. There's protons coming out of that star, and they are associated with either one pole or the other. South Pole here is shown in red, North Pole is shown in green. And this tells us the polarity of the protons in the heliospheric current sheet. It does affect things like magnetism, and it tells us something. It gives us insight into solar and earthly magnetism as we measure this. Anyway, there's the last image. You can see Earth solidly in that South Pole current sheet shown in red. Here's the line of sight view of the same data. It also shows you the solar magnetogram. And yeah, it's a three-dimensional view of the heliospheric current sheet. And you can see we're expected to be in the South Pole one for the foreseeable future. Here's the coronal hole plot showing you the sun's B field in blue. You can see some coronal holes rotating in here. Expect a massive uptick in coronal holes. We've been calling for a 60-day uptick in coronal holes here. And we're only about 2 weeks into that. So you can expect a lot more coronal holes in the coming month or two. Stay tuned to our channel for more on that. And congratulations on realizing we exist. Here's the latest image. Some minor coronal holes from the south about to rotate in. We'll see if they grow, shrink, or remain stable. And by the way, coronal holes give us great insight into the solar polar field progression. Next, looking at flare probability, I think the flare probability is higher than this, as that sunspot 2866 is certainly capable of still producing flares and still capable of producing large flares even after setting. So don't be surprised to see an M or an X-class flare, even though that is set, because we're not really looking at what's going on with the leading sunspot group. And so I think flare probability is still in warning levels. Also, I would reiterate, coronal mass ejection watch has been reestablished. Solar flare warning for us will evaporate in about 18 hours. We'll shut down the solar flare warning unless we see more sunspots. So no major flares in the past day here. Only one C-class flare over the past 3 days. No proton spikes. No relativistic particles headed our way. Real-time solar wind, quite uninteresting. Pretty unremarkable over the past 24. Density 3.5 protons per cubic centimeter. Solar wind velocity 394 kilometers per second. Nothing to write home about there. Fairly homogeneous activity. KP index at 2 for the past 9 hours there. Geomagnetic calm conditions. And my voice is becoming shattered. Here's 4 hours of your geospace magnetosphere movie for the day. This is a magnetohydrodynamic pressure model by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. And it's going to be homogeneous here. We're going to see higher pressure on the magnetotail side, the side not facing the sun, which would be to your right. You're looking at a 90-degree view there. 90-degree angles from each other, the equatorial and meridional planes. It's 4 hours of data in nanopascals modeled by the Space Weather Modeling Framework. Here are ground magnetic perturbations. And we are seeing some changes to Earth B field there under the South American continent there. So Antarctica south of South America, seeing some magnetic perturbations, as well as some coming out of the Indian Ocean and West Pacific. You'll see some pulses there coming out of Southeast Asia and so on. Pretty minor, though. And as we approach the equinox, we can expect to see a lot more geo-effective stuff going on. And we're only about a week from the equinox, folks. Make sure you tune into our YouTube live equinox stream. We'll be streaming at the exact moment of the equinox. So here's where stuff is in the solar system. We'll advance it 1 week. There's where stuff will be in a week. Full moon falling on the 21st. Next, a star chart. I like to put up the ecliptic plane, which is the yellow line, and the blue line, which is the galactic plane. The sun just rose when we recorded the video in Pennsylvania, Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. Our cosmology segment today will be brief. And we're going to pick a random number. It's 614, which coincides with something at the Neil Gorell Swift-Bat X-ray Observatory. It's object number 614, which is 4U1702-429, which is a low-mass X-ray binary/neutron star. It's a very bright X-ray source. And it has an interesting cyclicity, which we'll take a look at also. You can see this interesting cyclicity here. It has a step-like set of features. Any theories on how it has a cyclicity like that? I do. I won't mention it in the video because, well, it's too important to get into. It's because of polarity. All right, anyway, here is the 30 days. You can see a little uptick over the past 30 days. The upper right is the last 16 years. Let's go to Simbad and the CDS portal and see if we can take a look at this. And it's at a very dark portion of space, folks. I see a heap and help and a nothing there. So we know this is bright in X-ray. Can we find it in other wavelengths? That's the question. We don't see it in UV. It wasn't surveyed on the Galix. On the 2 mass, it is a heap and helping of darkness at the location of that object. Although there are probably some objects in the foreground. And when we look at it in X-ray, it's very bright. So that's definitely the object that we're looking at there. And we look at it in other frequencies, we're going to see vastly different things. But unfortunately, there's nothing to see. So here's the XMM Newton. Little higher res X-ray image there. And you can see how homogeneous that is as an X-ray source, perhaps with a jet oriented directly at Earth. You can see an optical light. It's completely dark there. It's 4U1702-429. Catchy name. Not the worst name we've seen. The low mass X-ray binary / neutron star massive radio source, X-ray source, we'll say. The massive X-ray source. Anyway, here it is one more time in X-ray. There's a different X-ray survey there. And you can see it's pretty consistent with the X-ray surveys from its neighbors. That's our cosmology segment. Let's get the satellite charging hazards. We see some minor ones over the Central Pacific Ocean. Those will move to the west. And here's the relativistic electrons over the past year. Nothing to write home about there. Nominal levels over the past 3 days measured by the GOES 16 and 17. Here's the relativistic electron forecast. And you can see the green squares and yellow diamonds. Green squares are observations. Green squares are forecast. Yellow diamonds are observations. Nothing to write home about there. I won't argue. Here's a diagram of the Van Allen belts. As GPS satellites must communicate through the inner Van Allen belt. And when they do, they have to communicate through a lot of electrons, which cause errors. We don't see many of those at the moment. But we show the total electron content forecast daily, as it is an important part of space weather. People want to know if their GPSs will work or not. And this is quite accurate. We've used it many times to demonstrate GPS errors on my bike rides. Next, the FI ionosphere layer, located at about 300 kilometers of altitude. We're looking at the vibrational frequencies up there in megahertz. Anyway, only some minor anomalies here, both of the high and low pressure variety. Here's the latest image. That is from 11 o'clock Universal Time. Here's the anomaly map showing 30-day anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median. Anomaly in megahertz from the 30-day median, or average, or mean, whatever you prefer. And there's 11 o'clock, some minor low-frequency anomalies in the south, high-frequency anomalies north of the equator at the moment, but pretty minor. Continuing on, to thank everybody for viewing. If you're only viewing the videos on YouTube, make sure you check out the BitChute channel as well. Thanks to our subscribers. Thanks to the Smash team. Thanks to our patrons. Please cancel your Patreon, because come October 1st, we're going to stop posting there. So get the benefits from smashomash.com/smashteam. It's not because we dislike Patreon. It's just because we have vastly superior capabilities on our own website. So we had to go our own way to smashomash.com/smashteam. You can find links on the homepage. Here's some stuff that non-Smash Team members can't even see. We're going to keep showing it every day through the month of Smashtember. So you're all invited to join the Smash Team. There's a bronze level, which is free. There's a silver level, which is $2.99 a month. And there is a gold level, which is $9.99 a month, and also has a paid-up option where you can get complimentary merch. smashomash.com/smashteam. It is beyond epic. And for all you current members, you ain't seen nothing yet. We also have the capability to send out email alerts and do all kinds of stuff that we're not even trying to do yet. We've barely even begun to alt tech. So welcome to the Neo Renaissance. Again, you can find all our links at smashomash.com. If you head to the SMASHO merch link, the SMASHO merch link up in the top center there, you'll find our merch shop, or click on the Smash Team to head to smashomash.com/smashteam. It is epic. Here's our merch shop. And today's featured product is the Mensa hat. So maybe you want to pick up one of our most popular items. My vaccination status is none of your business. The Vaccinate This HIPAA products. Anyway, today we're featuring Mensa. I guess I'll have to model this as I have one hat on my head right now. Mensa. Make Earth not suck again. It's up to you, not giant heaving bureaucracies which can't even get out of their own way. Make Earth not suck again. It's up to you. Pick up some merch, support the channel, or become a member of the Smash Team, or do both. Or press share and share on Muck Zuckerberg's Facebook. Muck Zuckerberg. News anchor Muck Zuckerberg decides to look at the El Teide Spain Observatory to see filaments on the eastern portion of the sun. We're about to go back to 0 sunspots as 2866 sets. No other sunspot groups. Let's do a really slow and tedious refresh of the magnetogram as we wait and wait for bandwidth for the high-res imagery. Anyway, there's not a lot to look at. There are no sunspots. Let's close things out by watching the final setting mode of sunspot 2866 in 1700 angstroms. Along with a perfect Earth scale there. That sunspot just a little smaller than Earth, and it looks like it's been shrinking actually over the past 24 hours. Solar flare watch remains in effect. Coronal mass ejection watch goes back into effect. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. We may make another video if there's something else happening later in the day. Here's sunspot 2866 in my favorite wavelength, 171 angstroms. And we'll close things out with a composite view here, ionized helium and iron, 304 and 171 angstroms. Thanks for tuning in. Congratulations on realizing the existence of our channel, and may that solar wind be at your back.